The deadline is inching closer and closer, and more teams are starting to reveal whether they're going to be buyers and sellers. And a new article has dropped revealing some more Leafs trade targets as well as some proposed trades. We're going to break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest. Before we do want to say that this episode is sponsored by Rentals.ca. Now, Darius, it is no secret that Leafs fans want moves. With the Leafs having clear holes in their lineup still, injuries continuing to pile up, fans have been calling for Brad Treliving to make some shakeups to the team. And if you feel like you need some shakeups and changes in your life, then Rentals.ca is the place to be.
You can rent houses, apartments, condos, whatever it is, Rentals.ca has you covered. From coast to coast, you can go straight to Rentals.ca's website that's clean and easy to use. You can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to move, and Rentals.ca will find you the best rental listings.
Yeah, so if you think like it's time to move in your life, and check out Rentals.ca. They are linked in the pinned comment and the description as well. And we've had personal experience. My brother has used it when selecting his new apartment, so it's a great website. So check it out, and thank you again for sponsoring this one. And Darius, we have some interesting things to discuss. We broke down the first half of the article in yesterday's video as the trade deadline is getting close. It's getting quite close, and now they have 2 to 3 more targets that the Leafs could potentially go for, and we'll discuss some potential mock trades and do what we usually do regarding that. Now, let's just start with the first one here. And again, this article dropped, and that they have some inside sources as well as using sources that have been gathered from the media. Now, let's start with the Montreal Canadiens, which is Sean Monahan, center/right winger. The article basically says Monahan rejoined the Habs prior to this season in hopes of rebounding and rejuvenating his game, which he definitely has successfully done, pending UFA this summer, which is a common theme here. Cap hit of about $2 million. Teams that have been linked are the Avalanche, the Jets, the Rangers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Monahan's having a great season, 35 points in 49 games. He's kind of increased his price a lot if you compare it to maybe him getting traded last season. What are your thoughts on Sean Monahan? I think it makes a lot of sense. Again, more depth. Obviously, defense is the priority here, but let's start with a center to get it going.
Can't believe I'm saying it about a Montreal Canadian, but it makes a lot of sense. It would be really good. We know that Brad Treliving's not exactly ecstatic about the third line position, which is exactly where I think Sean Monahan could fit in at the center position. He doesn't even make $2 million, so I'm sure the Leafs can absolutely make that work. I think the question and the fact of the matter is the Habs will probably ask for a lot in return because he is so valuable because of the cap hit and what he brings to the table. Because like you said, this year so far, 35 points in 49 games. For how old he is and the fact that he had hip surgery, I mean, he has rejuvenated his career for sure. So good for him. And like I said, just to get back to that, the Habs are going to want a lot out of the Leafs. And if you're the Leafs, it's a little bit scary because you're trading with a divisional rival. Not only a divisional rival, it could be Buffalo or Tampa and these other teams. It is the Montreal Canadiens, a storied rival, for the Leafs. So it is a pretty interesting trade proposal, but I think it works. I haven't hated Max Domi at the center position. I think he's been all right. Obviously defensively, he's kind of lacking, but when you look at this, it makes a lot of sense. I think it would make the Leafs better. I'm not sure what the return would be. That's a little scary if you're a Leafs fan.
Yeah, and trades between the Leafs and the Habs don't often go down. But, I mean, it is a unique situation. Habs are rebuilding, obviously, and Sean Monahan is about to hit pending free agency, so it make a lot of sense, especially with the way that his season is going. I mean, again, 35 points in 49 games. You look back to the year before last, which was his last kind of full season. In 65 games, he only put up 23 points. So great season for him, and it's good that the Canadians can get an asset out of it, and who knows what it would take to give him up. We'll discuss in a little bit here what some potential trades could be. But let's move on now to Ilya Lyubushkin. He is of the Anaheim Ducks. Teams reportedly linked to Toronto, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Edmonton, and Boston. An affordable third-pair defenseman for contenders that want a player with some bite. He's expected to be moved by the deadline. I'm not exactly sure about his contract or whether or not he's a pending UFA. What I do know is that he's a very solid defenseman. He has 4 points in 46 games. He wouldn't cost too much. This is his first season with the Anaheim Ducks. Do you think that he could be a good fit as kind of the third-pairing defenseman down there?
Again, it's another situation where I think Anaheim would ask for quite a bit. Obviously, I don't think you're going to get a first-round pick for a guy like this, but Leaf fans know exactly what this guy's about. Obviously, came to the Leafs at the trade deadline in 2022, played in the playoffs with Morgan Rielly. I thought he looked good. He wasn't the best defensive partner for Morgan Rielly, and obviously Luke Schenn, was that guy. But I think if you're looking at, making the defense better and especially bringing in another defensive defenseman to play with Morgan Rielly or just higher up in the lineup, I think this is a pretty decent option. He doesn't even make $3 million. He makes 2.75, which is not bad at all. You can make that work. Maybe even retain some salary if you go out and get like a center like we just talked about, Sean Monahan at the deadline as well. If you're looking for this guy to put up points or offensive numbers, there's no chance. He is not that type of player. He is going to be brought in to be a defensive player, a guy who's going to, hit guys, be physical. And the Leafs, we keep talking about it, need more of that. So we know exactly what this guy brings, and I think he can help the Leafs. I think, again, it's just a question of what Anaheim is going to want for him in return, because if you're the Leafs and Anaheim's asking for quite a bit for this type of player, I think you probably walk away. But in terms of a fit, I think it really helps the Leafs.
I mean, the big question is whether or not he would put the Leafs over the top, or maybe if his price isn't too high, he kind of be a hedge. I bet he's not going to be expensive as some of the other guys, like maybe like Noah Hannafin and other ones you discussed there. So that's interesting. And one I want to throw out, now this one isn't officially linked to the Leafs, but we've heard some rumblings about it before, and it's David Savard, again, of the Montreal Canadiens. It says, for teams looking to add a strong, reliable defender, we all know about David Savard, 33, $3.5 million cap hit. He has another year left in his contract, which is something that Brad Treliving might be more open to doing. He would cost a good bid, and he's having a solid season, 11 points in 27 games. He's having a very good season. Limited amount of games in 27. What are your thoughts on David Savard? Do you think he would be a decent fit for the Leafs, or do you think it's the same thing where it is the Montreal Canadiens and it would be hard to pay a steep price to a rival?
Again, it's going to be a steep price, probably. Well, it would for sure be a steeper price than Sean Monahan. If I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I'd almost want to hang on to him, but I could see why they would maybe part with him. But for the Leafs side of things, this is a big defenseman. He's a right-hand shot. Stanley Cup champion. That's one thing I wanted to bring up. He has won the Stanley Cup. The Leafs do not have many guys, and throughout the last couple of years with this young core, have not added many guys who have won the Stanley Cup. You cannot teach winning a Stanley Cup, the experience that comes with that. So this is a guy who's done that. And I mean, considering his style of play and the team he's playing on, because make no mistakes, Montreal is not the greatest team. 11 points this year in 27 games, not terrible. And he stays relatively healthy. If you look throughout his career, he stayed pretty healthy the last couple of years, and last year didn't play, and the year before that didn't play the whole season, but you still get 60 games out of him. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of fit, again, this is a guy that makes sense for the Leafs. It's exactly what they're looking for, a bigger guy who's won the Stanley Cup, good in the playoffs, right-handed shot. So everything makes sense here, but again, it's a perfect world. It just sucks that he plays for the Habs, because it's going to be hard to get players out of divisional rivals. Yeah, and they're all the Habs are definitely selling. They have a lot of pieces. Now, I want to ask you this question before we do wrap up. I asked you yesterday about some potential people and players that the Leafs could be trading. I want to throw out this guy because I saw a lot in the comments and some rumors circulating around. Is Conor Timmins? Do you think there's any chance that he gets, now whether it's I don't know if it's a swap for Savard, some sort of thing where they want a player, a defenseman who's more ready now compared to Conor Timmins, who was okay at times, he struggled a little bit at times. Do you think Timmins is a potential trade target for other teams and a potential trade partner that the Leafs could use to a player the Leafs could use to package for another bigger fish? I definitely think he is, because I still think he is a project player. And I don't think Conor Timmins, because I've said in the past that it's not working out in Toronto, and people misconstrued that as I think he's a bad player. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think it's working out in Toronto. I think he may succeed in a different system, right? So he's definitely someone that you can throw in there. He's still a project player. I think he's a really good player who can figure it out. Still relatively young. I mean, he was only drafted maybe 5 years ago, I think. So I think it could work out. But in terms of, a 1-for-1 or anything, I don't see that happening. I would think that the Leafs would still have to give another, prospect or a pick there, which I know they're very hesitant to do. But I wouldn't think it would be anything crazy like Fraser Minton or anything like that. But I definitely think Conor Timmins could be moved, and I'm just not sure it's working out in Toronto currently for him. I know he's getting into lineup here and there, but I think it's more of just the fact that he's a right-hand shot. So if they were able to upgrade at that position, I could see him leaving. Yeah, I definitely agree. And maybe on another team, he maybe needs a new change of scenery. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this and which player out of these is your favorite. And again, thank you to Rentals.ca for sponsoring this one. We will see you tomorrow.